She's touching her boobs and she's telling about her other parts. It is just so weird. Hello friends and welcome to my May wrap up. So in the month of May I read a total of 7 books, which I'm actually quite proud of. It was a good reading month. I read a book that came in my fairy loot box. I read a book that came in my Once Upon a Book Club box. I already did those unboxings, so if you're interested I will leave those videos in the info cards. And the other books were just books that I really wanted to read. And then I also started listening to Outlander book 2, which is Dragonfly in Ember. I am about 30% in, so that will be in my June wrap up. I also started reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This is actually the first time I'm reading the entire Harry Potter series in English. I only ever read them in my own language, which is Dutch. So this is kind of like my first time reading Harry Potter as how it is meant to be. So that's very exciting. I'm only on page 117, so I'm not going to finish this anytime soon, but I am going to make an entire video about it because I did that for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire as well, because I just love Harry Potter and it's super fun to come up with discussion questions and just these background stories and all these theories. So yeah, if you haven't seen that video, I will also leave that in the info cards, and I will be doing a video on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix sometime soon. But for now, let's talk about the 7 books that I read in May. I am super excited to share my thoughts with you guys, and if you like these kind of videos, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell so you never miss another video of me again. Let's get started. The first book that I finished in May is The Starless by Erin Morgenstern, and this was actually part of my 24-hour readathon, which I did with Tabby at Gryffindor Bookworm. I started this on the last day of April and I didn't finish it until the 5th of May because it's a chunker. Like, it has a lot of pages and also it's a really big book, so yeah, it takes some time to get through. And also the writing style was very odd, whimsical, almost poetic, so it's not a light read. To be honest with you guys, for the majority of the time I had absolutely no idea what was going on, and to this day I still don't, because I have absolutely no clue what the characters represented, if there were bigger themes or if it was just a good storytelling book. I have no idea. What I do know is that we follow our main character, who is called Zachary Ezra Rollins, which we are reminded of a lot because each chapter starts with his full name, and he is a 25-year-old student at a Ravenclaw who loves books. And yeah, he just one day he goes through this door and he finds himself in the Starless Sea, where he meets all these quirky characters and he has to save the stories, kind of. Erin Morgenstern is just a great storyteller, and she has a beautiful, whimsical, magical writing style, which just makes you want to keep reading. So it is a story within a story within a book. That sounds really complicated, but it is actually really structured. But as I said, it is just too intricate. If I compare it to the Night Circus, I prefer the Night Circus so much more, because that has like a good beginning, a good ending, and you can kind of guess what it is meant to represent. But in the Starless Sea, it was just too far-fetched for me. For all you gamers out there, this book reminded me of The Longest Journey, which is a PC game way back in the days. I think it is a point-and-click adventure, but that reminded me of the Starless Sea. As I also mentioned in my Goodreads review, if you are a fan of storytelling, then this is definitely the book for you, but be warned, it is not an easy read. So I ended up giving this a 3.5 star. So there were a lot of quotes in the Starless Sea that I really loved, but I wrote down 2 of them. And the first one is, "We are all stardust and stories," and the second one, "Endings are what give stories meaning." Next up is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, and this is of course the final and 3rd book of the Grishaverse trilogy. I'm kind of sad that this is the end of the Grishaverse trilogy, but I heard there are some other books that you can read, like Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom, and then of course King of Scars, which is apparently all about Nikolai, who is my all-time favorite character of this trilogy because he's just an awesome guy and I think he's just so funny. And sorry for another gaming reference, but he reminds me of the Sky Pirate in Final Fantasy XII called Balthier. I just picture him when I read about Nikolai. And also Bakra, I really love her character as well. She's the mother of the Darkling. And she has such an attitude, I absolutely love it. And of course we follow Alina again, who is now the saint, the wielder of light magic, and she has to find the third amplifier to fight the Darkling and end the epic battle between dark and light. What I didn't like in the third book is that you kind of already knew what was going to happen and what needed to happen, the sacrifices that Alina needs to make. But it doesn't happen until the second half of the book. I didn't really care that much because I was so engaged that I wanted to keep reading, but I would have preferred a more balanced progression of the story. But I still really liked it. I mean, I love the Grisha verse, there was a big plot twist, there was a good ending, so I still gave it 4 stars. And if you're a fantasy fan, I highly recommend you read this trilogy. Did I have a favorite quote? Oh right, yeah, there was something that Bakra said, which is suffering is cheap as clay and twice as common. What matters is what each man makes of it. Next up is my audiobook, which is Outlander book 1. I talked about this before and I really love Outlander. I love the series. I am obsessed with Jamie and Claire and their relationship, and it is so much fun to read the book series because they are good. The author of Outlander is Gabaldon, and she is just a great writer. She has a gift of making you feel like you're there. Her writing style has a lot of ambience. You get to know these characters. It is just amazing. Along the way, our main character, Jamie, develops PTSD, which is a post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not mentioned in the book, but when you look at all the symptoms, you can tell that he has that because he had to endure a very traumatic experience. And then Claire helps him to heal, which is such an emotional part in the book, and that really made a lasting impact on me. Oh, and also, if you've read this book, chapter 30, like, that was so weird. I think it's called Conversations at the Hearth or something, but it's Jamie's sister Jenny who describes to everyone in the room how it feels to be pregnant, and she's touching her boobs and she's telling about her other parts. It is just so weird, and afterwards she gets so horny that she goes upstairs with her husband. Yeah, as you can probably tell, I thoroughly enjoyed this book and I am very much enjoying myself reading the second book in the series. So of course I gave it 5 stars and I can fully recommend these books if you love historical fiction. I also read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the second book. I know a lot of you guys have already read these books, but I didn't so far. I absolutely loved the first one, so I had high expectations about the second book. And the only thing I can say about this is you are not my type, Fae are my type. I absolutely love this book. It is such a good storyline, an elaborate world, great characters, great creatures like the bone carver and the weaver in the woods, different kinds of magic, and let's not talk about Rhys. I just really like the balance in these books between romance, fantasy, and going on this heroic quest. It is just one of those books, for me at least, that I can't put down. I just want to keep reading. I am so invested in these characters. I really want to know what happens next. So I have ordered the third and final book in the series, but you know, shipping is a thing right now, so it hasn't arrived yet. But I am very much looking forward to reading the third book. So obviously I gave this book 5 stars. And who is Tamlin again? In the second book we also get to know the world a little bit better. So this mostly takes place in the Court of Dreams and Nightmares. And there's this city called Valeris, which is amazing. I wish it was a real city. And there's also a quote about Valeris, which is, "To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered." The next quote I'm going to read you guys is from The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. "Always know your way out. Never go into town alone. and on the night you burn sinners, sleep with your sandals on. So this is something that Fee, our main character, has learned throughout the years. He is one of the Merciful Crows, and these are mercy killers for people that are affected by the plague in the land of Sabor. The crows are the lowest caste, and then you also have different caste above them, and the phoenix is the highest caste in society. What I really liked about the Merciful Crow is that it is a dark fantasy, and our main character wields bone magic through teeth. So she acquires the teeth, and in these teeth it kind of contains the skills that people have, and these are bound to the caste that they were in. So it's really elaborate, and I really like that. And also there's a beautifully drawn map, and sometimes these drawings, and every chapter that starts with a crow. That said, I wasn't fully invested. I think that was mostly due to the writing style. It just sometimes felt like the author skipped a few sentences and just expected you to follow along. And then there was also the lack of depth in the characters. For instance, Fee, our 16-year-old main character, she mentions, I think, 5 times that she is capable of burning the world with her bow magic, but she won't do it. She just wants to know the world that she could. However, I do want to read the second book in this duology because the magic and caste system are really unique, and I like the world that the story takes place in. I gave this book a 3.5 stars. Next up is Wildland by Rebecca Hodge, and this book came in my Once Upon a Book Club box. I already did a unboxing video and a book review about this, so I will be brief, but this is a very thrilling survival story, and a book that I couldn't put down because I just wanted to know how it ended. Our main character is called Kat, and she is a very lovable character. She is a mother, and she retreats to the Blue Ridge Mountains to think about her life because she just heard that her breast cancer returned, and she has to make a big life decision: treatment, yes or no. While being in her cabin in the mountains, she meets 2 dads, and they have 2 kids, and these kids stay over at Kat's. But during that night a wildfire breaks out, and Kat and the kids have to flee into the mountains, and the dads escape, and they kind of set up this rescue mission to find Kat and their kids. The main subject in this book is surviving the wildfire and all the struggles that they go through. I expected a bit more emphasis on the big decision that Kat needs to make about getting treatment, yes or no, but that was not until the final chapters that was reintroduced. So that was a bit disappointing for me. However, it is a really thrilling story, a good read, so I gave it 4 stars. It's also a really emotional story, and just to give you a glimpse into the mind of our main character Kat, I wrote down a quote. "She had no belief in an afterlife, and death itself didn't frighten. It was the absence of life that frightened her." And that leaves us with the final book that I read in May, which is Bonkers Smooth by Kathryn Purdie. I have to be honest, the main reason I wanted to read this book is because, first of all, it came in my Fairy Loot box. Second of all, it has sprayed edges and a reversible dust jacket. So yeah, that just appealed to me, and I wanted to pick this book up. Sadly, this story was just all over the place. There were just too many elements. For instance, take the Bone Criers. They have their moon, their gods, they have to guide the human spirits with their bone flute, and they have to kill their amore. They have animal bones that they need to gather, so they have skills. It's just way too much. And then there's also the characters. So we follow 3 POVs, Bastien, Sabine, and Aless, and they are all teenagers who are just very shallow in my opinion. Let's take Bastien as an example. One moment he wants to decapitate you, the next he wants to spend his life with you. It just didn't make sense to me. I just didn't get how they could form these relationships so quickly. And the constant talking during battles, like I love a good one-liner during a fight, but entire conversations, that just doesn't happen. So what did I like about this story? Well, I actually really enjoyed the part where they gather animal bones and then obtain their powers, and I also really enjoyed the environment in which the story takes place, especially the catacombs. But other than that, it was just okay. It was an okay story. It didn't capture my attention. I am not gonna read the next book in this series, and I gave this one 2 stars. And those were all the books that I read in May. So if you have any book recommendations based on what I've just told you guys, please leave them in the comments down below. Also, if you've read any of these books, share your thoughts. I am very interested to hear them. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and let's stay in touch.